How many times have you heard the phrase happily ever after? And how much have we longed for our own happily ever after? I mean, every single one of us has a happily ever after that we are just waiting to have arrive. Well, guess what? Today we're going to ditch happily ever after because it's a terrible, insidious lie, but for a reason you may never have thought about before. And I want to talk about that central lie inside of happily ever after and why we need to replace the whole thing with something that's really much more powerful, much more real, and simultaneously much more magical. Now, if you've been wanting happily ever after or trying to be happy or trying to have a more creative life, this is the video for you. And watch it to the end because I have a special offer at the end for all of you wonderful, sweet little darlings. And while you're here, don't forget to give a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I am just loving you all so much, all of my new subscribers. Many, many thanks. If you don't know me, I'm Sam from thesamanthawild.com, and I am many things. I am a wild and free, multi-vocational, multi-passionate. I'm the mother of 6 amazing, beautiful children. I'm a nationally juried fiber artist. I am a published novelist. I'm an ordained minister, longtime yoga teacher, part-time fiber farmer, and I am a Yale-trained feminist theologian. What I am at heart is a weaver. And that's what I'm doing on this channel, weaving all those different parts of myself together. And that's what happens inside of my weaving. And I'm using upcycled, sustainable, repurposed materials on almost all of my pieces. But let's talk the lie of happily ever after. I mean, the truth is we all want to be happily ever after, but if you've ever tried to do happily ever after, I mean, how's it going for you? How's it working for you? Is happily ever after happening for you? We would do so much to make it happen, and it seems to elude us constantly. I think of happily ever after as something like wanting to live the American dream. And by that, I mean, there's always this sense of more, bigger, better, more money, something else still coming. We got to get there. We got to get there. Happily ever after, if you think about all those fairy tales, I mean, the first thing I want to say is it's very obvious that happily ever after belongs to fairy tales. And I'm not living a fairy tale, and you're probably not living a fairy tale. But we hold it up there like that's the highest place we could get to, right? And then they lived happily ever after. But let's think about these fairy tales for a second. There's something going on inside of them. And it happens in almost every single fairy tale without fail. You have the hero, or you have the heroine, and they're the one who's going to live happily ever after. But how do they get there? I mean, maybe they'll have some hard things. They'll always have some hard things, right? How do they escape their hard things? Somebody else always comes. Their Prince Charming comes to rescue them. Someone else comes to undo the spell that was cast on them. And this, my friends, makes us, if we're adopting that paradigm, it makes us passive in the middle of our story. You don't want to have to wait for somebody else to cast a spell. You are the one who should be casting a spell for your own life. For me, I ditch happily ever after. It doesn't work and it's depressing. If I want happily ever after and I wake up every day and I go, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? You know, because actually life is complicated and it's messy and it's confusing and 100 million things are outside of our direct control. And that means people in our own lives and in our family, and of course, the government, and of course, national politics, and of course, international politics, and of course, the cosmos. A lot of stuff is outside of our control. So if we become the hero or the heroine of a happily ever after story, we are sitting, waiting for somebody to save us. This is a terrible paradigm, and the best way to change it is to change it right now by simply shifting it to something else. Now, I can give you a bunch of alternatives. You could live magically ever after. You could live powerfully ever after. You could live kindly ever after. But what I love most of all is that we can live creatively ever after. And creatively is what reflects trueness, realness. Look at this. This is a piece I made. You can find this piece in the shop. It's made from mohair, and it's very light, but also very warm and very long. And like everything else I've ever made, it is totally unique, totally original, totally one of a kind. which is to say, just like me and just like you. To live creatively ever after means that we don't have the expectation that we're going to be happy all the time or happy every day. I mean, happy no longer becomes the bar. It no longer becomes the standard. But what it does shift, and I talked about this last week when I was saying the 5 things that are between us and our creativity, what it does shift is our inner compass. So if we're like a boat with a little inner compass and we have its set point as happily ever after, this is where I'm going, which is a place we never arrive at. What we want to do right now is shift it and say, I want to live creatively ever after. A creatively ever after life is real, it is accessible, it is powerful, it's attainable, and it's satisfying. When we decide, I want to live creatively ever after, and I want to ask you, and put your answer in the comments, what does it feel like if you say that to yourself? Say to yourself, I'm going to live creatively ever after. Say, I'm going to live creatively ever after. If you actually say it out loud, if you say it mentally, but it's more powerful to say it out loud, what does that feel like to say it out loud? And how different if we go, I'm going to live happily ever after versus I'm going to live creatively ever after. If we live creatively ever after, it connects us to our sense of adventure. If you're happily ever after, you've already prescribed stuff for yourself. You've got to be happy. That's a heck ton of pressure. I don't want that pressure. If I'm going to live creatively ever after, I get to have adventure. I get to be connected to my intuition, and I get to be connected to my depth spirituality. And I say depth as the operative word there because depth spirituality connects us to our deep intuition and allows us to access that connection to source inside of us. And we're no longer looking then outside for the solution. That's the same thing that I'm talking about in terms of happily ever after versus creatively ever after. In the fairy tale, we are always looking outside. Always looking outside. Where's my Prince Charming? Where's my sister? We can think of Elsa and Anna. Where's my sister? Where's my fairy godmother? Where's my Prince Charming? Who's going to come save me? Who's going to come rescue me? My friends, we need to throw that out. That it sucks. It stinks. It's a terrible paradigm. It makes us passive. It makes us victims of our life and our situation. And I don't know about you, but I am absolutely done, finished, complete, and over with being a victim from the circumstances of my life that are beyond my control. And every single person has those circumstances in our life that are beyond our control. But what a creative person does is set the compass for creatively ever after. What about coming to the end of your life and saying, I lived really creatively? That seems to me to be an incredibly powerful place to come from. And as we were talking about last week and in many of my other videos, if what we're longing to do is to prioritize our creativity, changing our set point where we're no longer like happiness is my goal in life, so I need to make more money or I need to have a better partner, whatever, that kind of goal often has us caught up in externals. If we change it and say, we're going to live creatively ever after, then we do end up prioritizing our creativity because it takes on greater and greater significance in our lives until it becomes like the center of a wheel, right? Think about a wheel. You have the center of the hub and the spokes going out. If creativity or our connection to it, to creativity and source, is the center of our life, that's what we roll around. And it no longer becomes a labor or an afterthought or something hard to get to. Our creativity becomes what directs every part of our life, every spoke, right? So then we're being creative, not just when we're sitting here weaving, making a piece. Then we're being creative when we're talking to our children or making our dinner or deciding what we're going to do tomorrow or what the next change or shift is for our life. I want to invite you to totally let go of happily ever after. 2 thumbs down. I think it absolutely stinks as a paradigm. And even if you don't think you hold it, it has saturated our consciousness. You find it in so many stories all the time. And they lived happily ever after. So even if you don't think you're carrying it, you probably are. If you made it to the end of this video, I just want to invite you to come on over to The Samantha Wild and check out my mentorship because I'm going to offer 20% off for anyone who comes to me for mentorship through YouTube because I'm just so excited and delighted with this community and to be building this community. My mentorship is creative mentorship from a spiritual perspective, and you get to have a 20-minute free talk with me before you decide you want to do it. So there's no commitment at all, but I'm going to offer that code to anybody who's watched to the end of it. So thank you for being here. And don't forget, give the thumbs up and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll know every time a video comes out. Don't forget to visit thesamanthawild.com. You can find this beautiful piece there. It's a little hot for me to be wearing mohair, but I love this piece. I call it royal, and it certainly makes me feel that way. Now, until next time, I hope that you all have a truly, creatively, ever after kind of day.